Hello everyone, it's GlitchNOut, and welcome to the first episode of a new series called Mob Rankings. In this series, we are going to be finding what the number one mob is for different categories in Minecraft. In this episode, we are going to be finding what the strongest mob in Minecraft is. Note, this does not mean the most dangerous mob in Minecraft, it means the strongest in general. Mobs will be scored based on 3 different categories. These are health, damage, and special abilities. Each category will be worth 10 points, so the max number of points a mob can get is 30. Points will also be taken away based on any disadvantages the mob has. Each mob will be put into a category based on their number of points. The categories are S, A, B, C, E, and Z. The S tier is the highest tier, and the Z tier is the lowest tier. I'm going to rank all the mobs in a certain tier, starting with the lowest and going up to the highest. And yeah, we're going to be ranking all of the mobs that belong in the Z tier, or the ones that I think should be in the Z tier, and then we will talk about them and kind of discuss why they are in the Z tier, and their general stats. Before I do the reveal for the Z tier mobs, I just want to point out that I did take out the S tier, as we only needed 5 different tiers, not 6, so I just decided to take out the top one. And A is still pretty cool, so I guess we're still good. But yeah, there's only 2 mobs in the Z tier, and they should come as no surprise to you, as they are the Endermite and the Silverfish. Both of them have extremely low health and extremely low damage, so they made it into the Z tier. And yeah, both of them had less than 3 points, so this one had 2 points, and that one had 1 point. But I guess it's time to move on to the E tier. And there are quite a few more mobs in the E tier than there are in the Z tier. We have the Pillager, the Slime, the Panda, the Wolf, the Zombie Villager, Phantom, Llama, Dolphin, and Pufferfish. So some of these might be a bit surprising to you. You might think that some of these might belong in the C tier. So I'm going to go ahead and explain to you why some of these mobs are a bit lower down on the list. First up, the Pillager. It doesn't have a melee attack, and its crossbow can be broken, so it did get a couple points taken off for that. But it did gain a couple back, because when the Pillager's crossbow is loaded, it actually can fire immediately once it's charged up, so that's actually pretty cool. The Slime can split into its multiple forms, but those forms are just so weak that they don't add any, so yeah. The Panda, it's pretty strong in terms of its like health and damage, but it can only attack once and can be distracted by bamboo, so yeah, points taken off for that. The Wolf, I would normally put it in the Z tier, but it does have quite a lot of health when it's tamed. I guess they don't want the players losing their dogs, right? So it does have a little bit of health, so it did get moved up to here, so that's pretty cool. The Zombie Villager, you might think that it would be in the same tier as regular zombie, but that's actually not the case, because they can be cured. And because of this, you're basically turning a zombie into a villager, and a villager is weak. They don't have any attack, no melee, nothing, so it did lose a point for that, so it did get bumped down into the E tier instead of the C tier. The Phantom, it's pretty cool, but it has low health, or it doesn't have low health, but it has low damage, and it got a lot of points because it can fly, but it burns during the day, so it lost points, and also their attack is very slow, so they also lost points for that. The Llama, Dolphin, and Pufferfish, not much needs to be said about these things. The Llama has a lot of health, terrible damage, but it can have up to 30 hit points, so that's why it's in this tier. Dolphins, they're pretty decent in terms of attack, but they can't go on land, so they lost points for that. Pufferfish, the only reason it's here is because of its poison attack. So yeah, otherwise its stats are about the same as the Endermite and Silverfish. I guess it's time to move on to the C tier. The C tier actually has more mobs than the E tier, and these are the mobs that are kind of going to be your average, still dangerous but not, A and B tier kind of mobs. So we have the Stray, the Vex, Shulker, Cave Spider, Magma Cube, Spider, Polar Bear, Ghast, Guardian, Piglin, Zombie, and Skeleton. So the Stray actually is on the higher end of this. It's 12 out of the 12 you needed to be C. If it had gotten another 0.5 points, it would be a B tier. But the reason for this is actually because, one, they have a decent amount of health, 2, they do a decent amount of damage. And they also have a very cool effect where their arrows are going to give you slowness. And they also have a melee attack, which I actually didn't know about, and I can't really I've tested it, but I haven't actually seen it, but it is on the Minecraft wiki. So they have a melee attack when underwater, and that will actually give you slowness too. So that's pretty cool, you know, just a little extra little bonus. But yeah, they do have a low melee damage, and they burn during the day, so they got a couple points taken off. The Vex, it's a very strong mob. Not a lot of health, but it does do a ton of damage. It can move through walls, it's really fast. But its main drawback is that it dies 30 to 119 seconds after being summoned by an evoker. So that actually I had to take away a lot of points, because if the mob can only be in the world for less than 2 minutes at most, then it's not that powerful, right? But the Shulker, this was an interesting one because it actually had pretty high stats. The only thing that was really low was its damage, but had a lot of health. And yeah, they have a pretty cool attack that gives you levitation. They can teleport, and they can become immune to projectiles when they're closed, and they also gain a lot of defense when they're closed. But yeah, they can't move unless they're teleporting, so they're basically an immobile mob, and not being able to move, it's gonna be, I had to take a ton of points off of that. Otherwise, it would definitely be in the B tier. For the Cave Spider, it's got low health, pretty low damage, but it does inflict poison on its target and can climb walls, so those two abilities together make it a pretty formidable mob if you're not ready. But yeah, low health and no ranged attack, so we had to take some points off for that. The Magma Cube, you may think that it should be in the E tier with the slime, but it's actually up here because of one special ability, and that's that it can jump really high. So otherwise, it's pretty much the same as the slime, but maybe a couple stats are a little bit higher. But it's basically just a bit stronger version of the slime that can jump higher, so we had to put it up here instead of down there. The spider, it's like on the lower end than the Cave Spider. It had a little bit more health than the Cave Spider, so it got a couple more points for that. But it does not have a poison ability, so that they didn't get those extra points. But otherwise, you know, they're pretty similar. The Polar Bear, it's a stronger version of the Panda Bear, I guess, and they actually do quite a lot of damage. They have quite a lot of health, so they're actually pretty strong as far as mobs go, and they can swim as fast as the player, which is pretty cool because if you're trying to escape, then they'll just catch up to you and kill you. But they don't have any range attack, so a couple points got taken off for that. And yeah, the Ghast, it has only 10 hit points, which I actually didn't know. So 5 little health points if you look at the bottom area of your hotbar right there. So I'd take off a couple points for that. But I actually didn't know the Fireball Explosion, it does a lot of damage. So it got a lot of points of damage. The mob can fly, but it has low health, and it is pretty slow, so we had to take off a couple points for that. The Guardian, it has average stats, a little bit more than average, I guess, for the health, and the damage is okay. But the main thing is they can actually activate a Thorns ability when they feel threatened, so that's actually pretty cool. The only drawbacks are their laser attack, it takes time to charge up, and they can't go on land, so that took off a lot of points. The Piglin, it is, for all intents and purposes, for the ranged kind of one, it's pretty weak, but the melee one actually does quite a lot of damage, so it had quite a lot of points for damage. It can detect when a player mines gold or opens a container, so that basically means that they can detect whenever you're opening chests or mining gold ore, so that's something that makes them a little bit more powerful. But the thing is that their strength is also their weakness. They can be distracted very easily by the gold, which makes them a lot more weak. The zombie and the skeleton are basically the same, except for the fact that the zombie has a melee attack and the skeleton has a range attack. Normally these would be in the E tier, but they have one special ability that gives them a little bit of an edge, and that is that they can pick up items and use them. So if you have a zombie in full netherite armor and a netherite sword, it's going to be pretty powerful. It might even be like a B tier or an A tier. Same thing goes for the skeleton. But this isn't always going to happen, so I only gave the ability a few points. The zombie and the skeleton, they also burn during the day, so I'd take off a couple points for that. But other than that, this is your kind of average mobs category. Nothing too powerful here. But once we get onto the B and the A tier, we're going to see some very strong mobs. So yeah, let's get on to the B tier. There are quite a few mobs in the B tier, but there are also quite a few dangerous mobs in Minecraft, so I guess it makes sense. But yeah, we have the Charge Creeper, the Vindicator, the Zombified Piglin, the Enderman, the Witch, the Evoker, the Drowned, the Wither Skeleton, Creeper, Blaze, and Husk. So you might be surprised that the Charge Creeper is not in the A tier, but it actually makes sense because although they have an extremely high damage output, they still suicide when they die. They can only attack once, but they can blow up the blocks around them, so that gives them extra points. But they also only have one attack, so they actually do have quite a few drawbacks, but still a very powerful mob. So it did make it into the B tier. The Vindicator, like the Charge Creeper to a lesser extent, has an extremely high damage output. But the thing with the Vindicator is it can attack multiple times. And you can also stun your shield, so if you've ever seen a PvP video or something and you see like someone take an axe and basically stun another player's shield, the Vindicator can do that too. So that is extremely useful. If you're using a shield, then it can just break through it and kill you in like 2 hits. So yeah, it doesn't have any range attack, so I had to take off a couple points for that. Zombified Piglin is a bit of a controversial one because it does have some pretty high stats, and it is immune to lava and can pick up items and use them, so it's actually pretty powerful as it is. And it would be even more powerful if I included the aggro feature, but this is a video about the strongest mob, not mobs. So we're not talking about like the packs of wolves, the pods of dolphins, or the packs of piglins. We're talking about the singular mob. So that's why it might have made it up to the A tier, but we're gonna have to keep it in the B tier for now because we're not talking about the aggro feature. Now the Enderman, you might think that this one might also belong in the A tier, and it's a pretty cool mob. It's got a teleport ability, so that's a lot of points. It can pick up and place blocks, so that's pretty cool. Not that useful, but pretty cool anyway. Has a lot of health, it does a lot of damage, so it does get quite a few points, but one thing it can't do is go in water, and it also can't go in 2 block spaces, so it can only really attack you in certain circumstances. And although these are a little bit specific, I feel like almost any mob other than the Blaze can go in water and not die, and so if they just happen to walk in water, the Enderman is now useless against them because it can't attack in the water. So yeah, that's why it got put down into the B tier. The Witch is a pretty cool mob because it actually has a decent amount of health, and it doesn't have any melee attacks, but it does use potions to attack, so it's going to use a variety of different potions to heal itself, defend itself, and attack you. So it might start off with a poison, then a weakness or a slowness, and then an instant damage. So it does actually have quite a little bit of strategy, which is pretty cool. And the only thing is that it doesn't have a melee attack, so if you get up too close to it and you just start hitting it with the sword, it can't really do that much against you other than try to drink health potions, and try not to die. The Evoker, it can summon the Vexes, which is one of its best abilities, but it can also summon a clamp-like trap, and this is pretty cool because it will actually come out of the ground and just bite you, and it's very dangerous. But yeah, the Vexes are extremely powerful. The actual Evoker, it doesn't have any like attacks to defend itself other than the clamp trap, so although it is powerful, it did not make it on the list because it has pretty average stats otherwise. And when I said list, I mean the A tier. The Drowned, now this is a bit of a surprising one, and I'm not talking about the Drowned, the normal one. I'm talking about one with a trident, because yeah, when a Drowned has a trident, it does a lot of damage. It's very maneuverable in water, and although it might not be as useful like when it's on land, it's still basically a zombie. A zombie with the trident is very dangerous, and it doesn't have just one trident. It actually can throw it and just keep throwing. It's like an infinity trident. It's kind of weird. But yeah, the only drawback is that it does burn during the day if it's on land, and it also can't really attack the player when it's on land, when the player is on land during the day as well. So yeah, a couple drawbacks. The Wither Skeleton, it's a pretty powerful mob. It has pretty average health, but a lot of damage, and it also gives you the withering effect when it attacks you. So that's actually very dangerous because it makes your health points very difficult to see. So that is one thing that it does really well. However, it can't go under 3 block spaces, and it has no ranged attack, so basically it's pretty easy to defend against, and that's why it is not higher up. The Creeper, it's like a mini charge creeper, I guess, which kind of doesn't make sense because the charge creeper comes from the creeper. But yeah, the creeper, about the same explanation as the charge creeper, except it does less damage, so it didn't get quite as many points as the charge creeper, but it still made it into the B tier. The blaze, it can it doesn't fly, but it can float, which is pretty cool, and it also burns you, which is pretty cool. The health and damage is it's okay, but the melee attack is actually pretty high damage. That's pretty cool. And yeah, the only drawback is it's rather slow. The attack has a cooldown, and they take damage from water like the Enderman, so their attacks aren't that useful if they can't light you on fire, so that's why it's stuck in the B tier, but it's still a pretty powerful mob. Now the husk. You might think that it might belong in the same tier as the zombie, but it actually goes a little bit higher up because it has a couple more abilities. One, when you hit it, when it hits you, it gives you the hunger satisfact, and also it doesn't burn during the daylight because I guess they're already kind of cooked. They live in the desert, and yeah, the sun does not bother them at all, so that makes them quite a bit more powerful, gives them a few extra points, just enough to get up into this category. But that's all gonna be all the mobs in the B tier, and it's time to get on to the A tier. So these are the mobs that you really want to watch out for because they can kill you even if you have a lot of good armor and a lot of good tools. These are the mobs that are extremely dangerous. In my hands, I have the 6 A tier mobs that are on this list. We have the Piglin Brute, the Zoglin, the Ravager, Hoglin, Elder Guardian, and Iron Golem. Note, these are not in order, and I'm actually going to do a little bit of a reveal. I'm going to start from here, and I'm going to slowly put in the more powerful mobs until we get to the end where we have the Crown Champion. And I think I'll actually even put a diamond block on this item frame because we'll do this on the fly right here. There we go. Diamond block, that will be the winner. So yeah, let's get started. At 6th place on the A tier, we have the Hoglin. So this mob, it's really strong, high health, high damage. It has high knockback resistance and can fling mobs in the air. So basically, with all these stats combined, it actually got quite a few points, and the only point that got taken off was for their fear of the fungi. So yep, there we go, Hoglin. In 5th place, we have the Zoglin. Very similar to the Hoglin, except for the fact that it is not afraid of the blue fungi, or the warped fungi, I think is what it's called. But yeah, pretty much the same thing. It still flings the enemies in the air, still has the high knockback resistance, so that's pretty cool. In 4th place, we have the Piglin Brute, and you might have thought that this mob would have been a bit higher on the list, and I'll explain kind of why I put it here. It has high health, 50 hit points to be exact. It can do 19.5 damage, so about the same as the Vindicator. If you have no armor, that's going to leave you at half a heart. And yeah, so basically between those two stats, it's a really formidable mob. It can also stun your shield, and it's not distracted by gold like the normal piglins. So all in all, this is a very powerful mob. Only point that got taken off was for the fact that it had no ranged attack. In 3rd place, we have the Elder Guardian. And yeah, this mob, it's pretty powerful, really high health, 80 hit points. Its damage is okay. It has the Thorns ability, like the regular Guardian. It can shoot a laser. But the main thing is, when you're close to it, it will actually activate a 5-minute mining fatigue debuff, which is very, very powerful because if you can't mine a single block pretty much. So yeah, it'll basically trap you with it in a room if you are in an enclosed area with it. So that's what makes the Elder Guardian so powerful. It can't go on land, and its laser takes time to charge up. So yeah, that they got a couple points taken off. Otherwise, they might have been in the 2nd place or even the 1st place. And do note, when I say that they don't go on land, I mean that they can't really fight effectively on land. They still can go on land, and I don't think they suffocate or anything, but it's best if they stay in the water in their natural element. But now it's time to reveal. Will it be the Iron Golem, or will it be the Ravager in 2nd place? And I have to say, it's the Iron Golem. So the Iron Golem, one of the most powerful mobs in Minecraft on this list, the 2nd most powerful actually. It has 100 hit points, tons of health. It has really high damage. It can go up to 31 damage. It's extremely powerful. It can throw enemies in the air, and it's just all out powerful. But the only point that got taken off was for the fact that it had no ranged attack, but otherwise extremely powerful. This mob, there's nothing really it can't do other than the fact that it can't reach up 3 blocks. In speedrunning is actually a big deal, but I thought I wouldn't put it on this list because none of the mobs other than like the magma cube and a couple others can actually reach higher than 3 blocks, so we're not going to count that against him. But the Ravager, it's just more powerful in general. It has 100 hit points, can do 18 damage for a regular hit or 9 damage for its roar attack, so it's actually less damage than the Iron Golem. It makes up for it in special abilities. It has a high knockback resistance and can be ridden by other Illagers, so the Evoker, Vindicator, Pillager, all of those things. The Witches I don't know about, but yeah, so basically they can combine their power with any of the Illagers, and I'm not gonna really talk about that much, but I will give it a couple points for the general ability. Another thing it has is high knockback attacks, so if you're standing there, it will actually knock you back pretty far if it hits you, so that's another reason. And it can also break certain blocks, so I guess if you are facing the Ravager off against the Elder Guardian, it's actually gonna be a pretty even fight, because although the Elder Guardian can give the Ravager mining fatigue in theory, I don't know if it actually can, it can still break the blocks, so that makes it pretty powerful. The only bad thing about the Ravager is that it can be stunned by a shield, so if you're holding your shield up and Ravager runs into it, it'll actually be stunned for 2 seconds. That is the only thing that's holding back. And if you want to know the exact points, this is a 17 out of 25, 17 out of 25, or 17.5 out of 25. We have a 18 out of 25, 18.5 out of 25, 21.5 out of 25, and a 24.5 out of 25. So it's basically a maxed out mob. And I do want to say that this might not be like completely accurate in terms of how dangerous a mob is. And I'm actually doing another episode in this series where we're actually going to be finding out what the most dangerous mob is. And this video is more about talking about like the general stats of the different mobs. In the next video, or the next couple videos, we're going to talk about more about like their general fighting techniques, and we're going to show it off in kind of like a battle arena kind of idea. So that's going to be pretty cool. But yeah, the Ravager is in fact the most powerful mob. Let's go ahead, put him up here just for now. So, oh, oopsies. Okay, we'll just let an Elder Guardian kind of hang around. But yeah, this video took a super long time to research and make, so if you wouldn't mind, a like would be greatly appreciated. And also, if you enjoyed and want to see more of this series, make sure to hit that subscribe button. But otherwise, this has been GlitchNOut. Goodbye, everyone. I also wanted to mention that I am going to be leaving this world in the description, so if you want to come check it out, kind of see in more detail the various levels and stuff. And yeah, there will be a world download in the description. I might even include a document of kind of the research, but I might not, because it was kind of sloppy and messy and I just kind of wrote down numbers randomly. So maybe not, maybe you'll see it if you head down to the description. Maybe it'll be there. So yeah, I guess this is the real goodbye. Bye bye.